What is going on, everybody? How are we doing today? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global back here with another video. Hopefully today's stream goes all right, guys. Unfortunately, I don't know if it's my Wi-Fi. I don't know if it's the week worth of storm that's about to hit where I'm at, but the connection today, not even with this live stream as I was getting it ready, but just in general with me trying to do work today, very wonky. Hopefully it doesn't affect the stream too much. I'm going to be reading the comment section though, so make sure you guys do let me know if something is super off. At the end of the day, we want the video and the audio to come in as crisp as possible. But as long as the audio can come in crisp, that is the most important. You guys understanding what I'm saying essentially is the most important thing. But I appreciate everybody for being here. A few minutes late today's stream, but not too bad. Like I said, some storms are rolling in, and it does look like, from my point of view, the video is a little glitchy. But like I said, as long as the audio is okay, I'm okay. But McGo is in here. Brandon is here. Let's see what NFL. Let me see. Wiznerd is also here. Brandon is here. Who else we got up in this? Ashton is here. MA Football Guy is here. Guys, I appreciate you guys for being here. Don, I think you were the first one in the chat today. Mr. Automotive is in the building. So I haven't seen you in a minute, brother. How we doing today? Guys, we are going to be talking, as the title you can tell, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Jack Jones situation. Now, I have a whole video I recorded last night about this, but I wanted to go live for you guys. I'm going to have surgery coming up here in a few days, a little less than a week. So I'm going to be out of commission for a little bit. So I've got a lot of pre-recorded stuff coming your way. So ideally would like to go live a couple of times this week, just because I know I'm not going to be able to start off July. But we're going to talk a little bit about Jack Jones. My full thoughts, and that video will come out probably tomorrow. And then we're also going to talk about some of my minicamp takeaways, and then I'm going to open this up to a Q&A. Now, I do have potential Patreon members coming in here today. Like always, if you guys do want to join this stream, come on the channel, share your thoughts and opinions, become a Patreon member. Best way to do so, really only way to do so, is by clicking the first link in the description below where it says how to become a Patreon member, how to support the channel. That is how you come on the channel. For only $10 a month, you get a lot of benefits. Great way to support me in the channel. So real quick, let me pull this up for my Patreon members, and you guys start dropping some questions. This is a dull point in the NFL, right? So I want to start giving back and kind of discussing some of the questions that Patreon, or not Patreon, but Patriots Nation has surrounding this team before we get into minicamp. All righty. Patreon members, I'm looking to get off that stream right now. Should only be another minute or so. We might not have any join, but we could also have some join. Let's see. Like I said, things are running a little bit slow on my end here, which is why things are a little bit backed up. We'll hit that. There we go. And Patreon members, that is now posted officially. So let's start getting into this. So some of you might have seen me on Bleacher Report a few days ago, in which I did already break down some of my biggest takeaways from Patriots minicamp. Some of those might be a little bit of a crossover, but I do want to talk about a few different things. So probably one of my biggest takeaways so far, not even through Patriots minicamp, but OTAs, and I think you could probably just conclude those two together, was, really just the Patriots offseason in general, is the offensive tackle position. And I feel like this might be a video that needs to be made, right, about the whole offensive tackle situation, because this is a serious problem for the Patriots. And I've talked about this a lot on TikTok with Mac Jones. I've talked about Mac Jones statistics here on the channel, and it just being a night and day difference, right? They are very, very different with Mac Jones under pressure versus Mac Jones in a clean pocket. Said it the last couple years, and I'll say it again. The way to start building your offense and get offensive success, whether you're running the ball, whether you're, let's say, passing the ball, whatever phase you are trying to run your offense through, no matter what scheme you're trying to run your offense through, it all starts with your offensive line. Your running game, they need blockers. They need to get into open space in order to actually make plays. Your quarterback needs to be able to have time to get through his reads. The receivers, the tight ends, the running backs need time to get through their routes and actually get open in order for the passing game to also work. So with that being said, it all starts with the offensive line. And I'm not concerned about the Patriots' interior of the offensive line really at all. I'm very confident with the Patriots' interior of the offensive line, right? You obviously have Michael Onwenu right now, who is one of the best interior offensive linemen in the National Football League. He was one of the best, I don't say one of the best, but one of the highest graded tackles when he played right tackle. Also, very well all-around offensive lineman that we'll have for at least 2023. Probably won't have him after, but we'll have him for at least 2023. Antonio Mafi, who we drafted in the 6th round, someone I'm big on. They worked at the East-West Shrine Bowl with, hands-on. They know him probably better than anybody else knew him in the draft process. Well, maybe other than the Falcons. But he's a guy, very similar build as Michael Onwenu, a guy that very well could take over for him at right guard when he does decide to leave. And the other thing, too, is that if Michael Onwenu does go down, who's going to back him up? It's probably going to be Antonio Mafi. So I'm very confident about what the Patriots have as starters for the offensive line, but I'm also very confident in terms of what the Patriots will have in terms of backup, depth, and rotational pieces. Also, Jake Andrews so far through minicamp and OTAs hasn't actually been getting a lot of snaps at center, has been getting a lot of snaps at guard, more specifically right guard. He was the first offensive lineman, the first interior offensive lineman the Patriots actually drafted in the 4th round. We know they went a little bit of a spree there, went from Jake Andrews to who was it then? City Sal, then Antonio Mafi. It was those 3 interior guys really back. Well, I can't say back to back to back. It was like back, Chad Ryland, back to back. So, but then, you kind of look at that situation there with Jake Andrews. We already said he's probably not going to be somebody that gets in with center this upcoming season. I think that when it comes to center, that's going to be either David Andrews. If he's injured, then it's going to be James Ferentz, who I do believe they would like to roll on the active roster from a veteran standpoint because there are so many young, unproven guys still. You move over to left guard, Cole Strange. He has to take that leap forward this year, and I really, really think he's going to. He's getting into it with guys at practice. I think we're going to see that hard-headed, dog pound, put your hand in the dirt Cole Strange this upcoming season. He looked a lot better the second half of the season than he did the first half, and a lot of times it takes offensive linemen that second-year leap to actually start showing that progress. And former first-round pick, we got to see it at some point. So I'm confident with what we'll see from Cole Strange this upcoming year, too. Again, so between those backup pieces with Jake Andrews, with Antonio Mafi, I'm confident with the backup pieces we have, along with the starters. Even in terms of center, I think we have a lot of good depth too. Nobody should be concerned with the interior of our offensive line. It's the tackles in which we get concerned. Trent Brown has only participated in one practice in which he didn't even participate in the entire thing. He played a drive and then was out, right? So organized team activities is optional. You don't have to go. Trent Brown never shows up to those things, whatever. You think in contract year, he'd be more motivated to get that last bag, to prove himself in order to get that last bag at the end of the 2023 season, but he still hasn't. Misses the first day of minicamp because his plane was delayed, which I believe it was. There were some weather issues going on with where he was traveling into Boston. But why would you travel a few hours before practice starts? Why are you not getting there the day before? Why are you not getting there a few days before and getting yourself acclimated and ready, both physically and mentally? That bit him in the butt. And although he can't control the weather, I 100% put that back on him because you're just being irresponsible. Gets to practice the second day and is out of shape, comes in overweight, plays a few snaps, plays a couple drives, and then has to come out of practice because he's just not in shape. He's dealing with some injuries. He's being overworked already. So he doesn't even participate in a full practice. And then day 3, obviously, we knew was canceled. So your starting left tackle that you're essentially hoping to be the leader of your pack in terms of tackles is a guy that any other year would probably be on the outside looking in. A lot of people want to say, well, maybe we trade him. How are you going to trade your best tackle right now when there's no depth behind him And what are you telling me? You want Connor McDermott and Calvin Anderson, or Connor McDermott and Riley Reef, or Calvin Anderson and Riley Reef being your 2 full-time starters all season? Because we see that we are dealing with a little bit of connection issues there, guys. So roll with me here. Roll with me. Like I said, as long as the audio sounds good, that's all that matters. NFL Wiz, I see you're telling me it's a little laggy. Is the audio okay? Is the audio coming in and out? Or is it just the video? Get you guys. Let me know real quick before I keep going. Alex, man, what's going on? Got you. So as long as the audio sounds good and it's not mixing up and you guys can understand what I'm saying, then we're okay. But if the audio is getting weird, then that's where we have a concern. So hopefully it continues, but if it does get too laggy and it's not really making much sense, then we'll just end the stream and I'll try to get some uploads that I have recorded for you guys that I was trying to get up tomorrow. So you guys just let me know, give me back that feedback. But back to what I was saying here about the whole tackle situation, right? Riley Reef hasn't even been participating with the Patriots starters. He didn't come to OTAs. Veterans usually don't, to optional practices, but comes into minicamp. And through the 2 days of minicamp we saw, wasn't working with the first team. He was working with the second team offense. And Connor McDermott is currently ahead of him. Now, there's a lot of time to go. I don't really like to put anything set in stone until training camp starts, going along and we start seeing some consistency in training camp. That's when we can start reacting to things. But there is still something to take away with Riley Reef being a guy that you paid a 1 year, I think $5 million base salary to, which essentially guarantees he's going to be on this roster. You would think that with that immediate signing, he's pretty much immediately plugged into being your right tackle opposite of Trent Brown. But Connor McDermott is still taking over that role. Now, sure, Connor McDermott at the end of the day does know the system a lot better. I was a former draft pick by the Patriots. Obviously spent half of the season this past year with the Patriots also after they had tackle issues around November. But from a talent standpoint, that guy should still be Riley Reef. And so I think that this is a battle. I do believe that there is a battle for the Patriots over at right tackle. And that's a camp battle we should continue to watch as we head into training camp, is going to be, well, when pads come on, when there's contact, does Connor McDermott still outperform Riley Reef? Or when contact starts to assert itself, do we see Riley Reef start to get that edge over Connor McDermott? And now McDermott's going to the second team and Reef is being plugged into your starting right tackle for your first team offense. That is something that I think is really, really important to watch as we head into training camp. But right now, Connor McDermott is winning that right tackle starting job, and Calvin Anderson looks like your swing tackle slash depth piece at left tackle if Trent Brown is to get injured. At the end of the day, though, when we signed Calvin Anderson, we didn't think that he was someone that was guaranteed a roster spot, but knowing the fact that they didn't draft a tackle, they didn't make any big splashes at tackle in free agency, and at this point haven't made any other moves, didn't even bring in a tackle as a UDFA, you have to think that he's a roster lock now also. The Patriots have very average, I would say average at best to below average tackle play, and tackle is the most important position along your offensive line, right? Those are your outside perimeter guys, essentially keeping your quarterback safe. I think that's going to be a major issue for the Patriots in this upcoming season. So, like I said, tackle's a problem. I'm hearing that the Patriots are aware of the issues at the tackle position too, and could potentially be looking to maybe even trade for someone. I hold the horses on that. Take it with a grain of salt. Nothing is confirmed. It's not like Ian Rappaport is the one that came out and said this, but there is still something to potentially take away with the Patriots, knowing that tackle is very important, right? Because at this current time, right, if there was a quality starting left tackle the Patriots could trade for versus signing DeAndre Hopkins, I would go with the tackle, right? The Patriots have a very, I want to say very good. They have a good and very decent wide receiver core that will easily get the job done as long as it stays healthy. DeAndre Hopkins just puts them over the top. But If you can get a quality tackle, that is what's going to make the massive difference for this team. Again, Mac Jones in 2021 with worse receivers and a worse contributing offense around him had a very good season, performing as a fringe top 10 quarterback, and the Patriots offense ranking 7th in the National Football League. Why? Because he had at least a better offensive line than he did now that was able to build continuity around itself. With that being said, I would 100% go with a tackle over DeAndre Hopkins if that did present itself. I don't think you're getting both. You're not going to get a starting tackle while also bringing on DeAndre Hopkins. That's just not going to happen. But I do think the Patriots do need to do one of those two things. They either need to bring in a tackle if they don't get D-Hop, or they need to sign DeAndre Hopkins to give Mac Jones another weapon, because there is some concerns with the health of the wide receiver room right now. Not to mention the fact that it still could use a boost for sure and could still get better. If Mac Jones is going to be under duress the entire time, he needs to at least get the ball out fast. And the way that I kind of think about this is Joe Burrow in 2021 when they went to the Super Bowl. He had a terrible offensive line, and that's essentially why they lost the Super Bowl, but they were this close to winning the Super Bowl. Why? Because the offense was still very good. Why? Because Joe Burrow, despite being under duress all the time, was able to get the ball out lightning quick to avoid getting sacked, to avoid pressure, because of how good his receiving cast was. So if the Patriots are not going to build this offensive line to keep Max safe and have him protected longer to get through his reads and have guys get open, then you need to have him get the ball out quick, which essentially means you do need to have the best supporting cast around him in order for guys to get open and he get that release out fast enough. So that's kind of my thought process there on the offensive line. I think that is my biggest takeaway from minicamp overall. My other biggest takeaway is going to probably be about not the wide receiver core, but rather the running back core. James Robinson released. I got a video dropping on this one too, but with sorry, I was reading some of the comments here. With James Robinson being released, I think the biggest question is, where do the Patriots go in terms of running backs, right? And I think a lot of people viewed this as a Dalvin Cook was just released, Patriots Global. I'm just saying, Dalvin Cook did say he wants to play with DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins was just here in Foxborough. I'm just saying, Patriots Global, guys, it's not happening. Like, I really hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Dalvin Cook is not coming to New England. It's not happening. It's not realistic. It's not a thing. If you hear anybody saying that there is reported interest in the Patriots right now, up to this point, there could in the future, I doubt it, but there could. Up to this point, if you have heard anybody reference that there is interest from the Patriots in Dalvin Cook, if people are making videos about Dalvin Cook and the Patriots being interested, it's clickbait and they're lying to you, because the Patriots have had no interest. And it also makes no sense for Dalvin Cook to come to New England, because he's going to have a lot of interest in the NFL as a starting running back. Why would he come to New England, where he's going to be a spell back behind Ramondre Stevenson, to essentially keep Ramondre Stevenson fresh and healthy? That's what the Patriots need right now. They don't need a lead number one running back. They're not going to pay Dalvin Cook that type of money to be a spell back. Now, if Ramondre got injured, maybe that's a discussion we have. Knock on wood. But right now they're looking for a spell back, right? I don't even think a guy like Kareem Hunt makes sense for the Patriots, because last year with the Browns, he requested a trade because he was the spell back. You know, Nick Chubb was getting all the reps in front of him, and Kareem Hunt thinks that he's a starting running back. He's not going to want to come here and be in that exact same situation. Maybe Zeke Elliott would come on a decent deal, short yardage back. He'll still get some decent, opportunities and reps, but it's kind of the same situation with him. He was unhappy with his time in Dallas at the end because Tony Pollard was getting more reps ahead of him. All of those guys, these big names on the open market, essentially want to be the starting lead bell cow running back. And you're not going to get that in New England, and you're not going to get paid enough to essentially come to New England and be a spell back. So if you're not going to get the money to come here, you're not going to be a lead running back. Why would any of those guys come here? So I hate to break it to you guys, but it is just not going to happen at the end of the day. it wouldn't surprise me if the Patriots look at this running back core and they're actually happy with what they have, because you kind of look at the timeline of what happened with the Patriots this offseason or even the last year. They draft Pierre Strong, they draft Kevin Harris. They deal with a lot of running back issues this past year, but none of those guys really got opportunities until the Arizona game, in which the Patriots actually had to give those guys opportunity because Ramondre Stevenson went down with an injury. If they were going to run the ball, it had to be with those two guys, or else they just were not going to run the ball at all. Then they let Damien Harris walk, and Damien Harris signs with the Buffalo Bills on a one-year deal after the Patriots signed James Robinson, and they gave James Robinson more money than Damien Harris got with the Buffalo Bills. So clearly, the Patriots were taking a high-risk, high-reward type of situation with James Robinson where, hey, if this works out, great. And even the contract said that they weren't confident it was going to. But they said, you know what? We have our lead back. We drafted two guys last year that we really like. And if we can get an old James Robinson version, then this is going to be an excellent 1-2 punch with an excellent third down receiving back in either Ty Montgomery or Pierre Strong. Unfortunately, things did not work out with James Robinson. They released him. But again, I do still think that they are very confident within their running back core, these young bucks that these guys already have. And that's why they're not freaking out. And if they do bring on a running back, I do think that it's going to either be due to injury from the Patriots in training camp, or you're going to see a guy a little bit later on into training camp and essentially just come in and take some reps. That's going to be it. To take some reps in the end of preseason also. That's what they're going to do. But I don't see them bringing on any other guy into this running back core to actually be a pure starter. You sign, Kareem Hunt, Ezekiel Elliott, any one of those guys, and those guys are essentially a roster lock. So I think this should tell people that you're going to see a lot of Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong this upcoming season, especially Kevin Harris. From what I'm hearing, there is a lot of good things coming out of camp about Kevin Harris, especially from a receiving back standpoint. So looks like we do have, there we go. Ooh, there we go. We do have a Patriot member coming on in here. We got Gerald. So looks like we got some fresh opinions coming on in here. Let me adjust. Let me adjust this real quick. Open. It looks like we had Gerald hop out for a second. So we'll see if he comes back in. But yeah, guys. So that's kind of my thoughts there on minicamp and kind of just some of the biggest takeaways for me. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much because I do have a winners and losers video for minicamp coming out. So I'm going to break down a lot of news still. But those are probably my two biggest takeaways from minicamp. I want to know your guys' thoughts though about minicamp and your biggest takeaways there. Like I said, I also have all the days broken down for minicamp. I have all the days broken down for OTAs. If you wonder how these guys were practicing and performing, go ahead and check out those videos. But let's get Gerald in here and kind of just hear some of his thoughts on minicamp. Hey, man, what's going on?
All right.
Doing good. So what were some of your thoughts there on Patriots minicamp there to wrap up? Looks like we're losing Gerald here a little bit. Not sure what happened there, but looks like we were losing Gerald there a little bit. But let's move on here to the Jack Jones situation. So as we all know, Jack Jones arrested a little over a week ago due to some charges that I got to be careful what I say here on YouTube. So if it looks like I'm trying to find the word, it's because we're trying to not get demonetized. But essentially goes to Logan Airport, which is the international local airport there in Boston, Massachusetts. And this is right after minicamp wraps up. And this is the last opportunity for any of these guys to go on vacation before things, essentially before they have to get back into football, right? Because it's training camp and then it's preseason and then regular season and postseason. And then you're not done until postseason once training camp starts. So this was their last opportunity to essentially be able to do so. And Jack Jones takes full responsibility, but full advantage of that opportunity to get out of Boston. But unfortunately, doesn't get out of Boston because in his carry-on bag, 2 firearms were found. And essentially led to him getting arrested. Now, up until today, he has been in jail. He did post a $30,000 bail. I believe it was a $30,000 or $50,000 bail. I believe it was 30,000, which essentially means that he is a free man until August 18th. August 18th is going to be his court hearing in which we hear about what they're going to do from a legal standpoint. Is he going to serve a fine? Is he just going to have to do community service? Is he serving jail time? That's the biggest question. Now, we've all heard that number of about 30 years in prison, upwards to 30 years in prison. But I do have some statistics coming out in my video about him in which it's very unlikely that he does serve 30 years in prison. It is likely that he does serve some type of time period in prison. He obviously is a football player. He has some money. Maybe he's able to pay his way out of it, but he's obviously not a veteran. So how much money does he really have to be able to do so? But he could still even look at a 1 to 2 year time period in prison. And if that's the case, he's probably likely not going to be a Patriot, right? Because the Patriots aren't just going to keep him on the team if he's going to be in jail for the next 2 years. He's going to be released, and then whenever he decides to come back or try to make an impact back into the NFL, then he'll have to work out for teams and do whatever. So I think the best case scenario for Jack Jones is, hey, either you are found not guilty, and I think what they're essentially trying to say is that Jack Jones didn't know the firearms were in there or that the firearms were not his, and that's what they're going to try to essentially preach in order to make him a free man. But if he is found not guilty, then I do think then he's going to be okay for the Patriots. As long as the NFL doesn't suspend him, I think he's going to be okay for the Pats. From what I heard, the Patriots were looking at potentially suspending, or not suspending him, but we're looking at actually potentially releasing him. Jack Jones' lawyer kind of talked to the press today during his or after his like court hearing, one of the things he had today, and was like, this almost cost him his job, but, thankful to the Patriots that they're hanging on with us and taking things slowly. Obviously, the Patriots released a statement right after the situation happened saying that they, know about the situation and they're waiting to hear all the details about it before making any type of action. So it sounds like the Patriots were potentially looking at releasing Jack Jones, but then kind of were convinced to, hey, he didn't do this. It's a misunderstanding. Just hear it out and let us prove to you he's not guilty before you release a guy that could be very, very beneficial for your team, and which he showed us even last year as a rookie. So again, ultimately, I don't think that we're going to know much about this whole Jack Jones situation up until maybe August. I'm not exactly sure the rules in which are going to happen with Jack Jones. Like, I don't know if he can still practice or if the Patriots will still want him to practice in training camp until his hearing, or how that whole situation goes. I do know that players in the past have had these types of situations and were able to participate in practice until the final, decision on their court hearing was decided. But again, I'm not sure from a Patriots standpoint what they're going to decide to do with Jack Jones, whether they're going to say, you're a distraction, we can't have you at camp until this is blown over, or, hey, you're okay right now until we hear the final verdict on what happened, at least come practice, just in case you are found not guilty. So we're in a very awkward medium stage. I believe it was Jeff Howe today that reported that his future with New England isn't looking very good, but then his lawyer obviously coming out and saying some different things. So we're at a very confusing standpoint here, but Patriots don't stand for this kind of stuff. This isn't the first offense for Jack Jones, not even the first offense from a legal standpoint, but not even the first offense with the Patriots. So I think there's some real concern here. S27 asking, would he actually go to jail? Yeah, I mean, he brought 2 firearms to the local airport, so he definitely would be serving jail time. The question would be how much, unless they can actually prove the fact that, hey, I'm not guilty. This is a misunderstanding. I didn't know they were in there, because I think what they're trying to like I said before, was essentially preach the fact that, hey, we didn't know that was in there. My bad. But at the same time, Jack Jones hands the security guard his bag. The bag has his name on it. It's not a good look. I don't know how they're going to turn this around, but I know Jack Jones does have a really good lawyer. If anybody is going to get this turned around for him and prove that he's innocent, it's going to be her. But I don't know, because even from a Patriots standpoint, if Jack Jones tries to push this narrative of, I didn't know they were in there, one of the guys traveling with me put them in there and didn't tell me, then it's like, well, why are you hanging out with guys that are trying to bring 2 Glocks into an airport? Either way, you're kind of screwed over here, Jack. It's just kind of a perspective on how screwed are you. So I know Bill Belichick and the front office are not happy at all with him. They weren't happy at the end of the season with him. They thought they could move past things. They're not happy with him now. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. As for what does the future hold for Jack Jones and what does this mean for the Patriots kind of after, what does this mean if Jack Jones doesn't come back to the Patriots? You guys are going to have to wait and hear that in my upcoming video because I did break down what I think ultimately happens if Jack Jones does not come back here to New England. But guys, let's start dropping some questions in here and get into a little bit of a Q&A. I know we're dealing with some technical difficulties here today that I'm trying to get around, but hopefully things are sounding a little bit better. NFL Wisnerd says, Global, I think the Pats will put on Wenu at tackle, put Mafi or Andrews at right guard position. What do you think? So like, I would like them to do, like, realistically, I would like them to do this. So I don't want you guys to think that it's like hey, Global, you just don't want them to do this. No, in a perfect world, I think this is the right thing to do. From a talent standpoint, this is the right thing to do. But from a continuity standpoint, this is not the right thing to do. Michael Onwenu, his first year, comes in. He plays some right tackle. He plays some guard. Year later, he's playing right guard. Or no, he played left guard. Didn't really work out for him. The following year, he's playing right guard. He's played pretty much every single position other than center and left tackle. The Patriots need to stick with him in a certain place in order to keep this continuity. They've referred to him several times as a guard. They believe that he is a guard, and they are not going to push him out to tackle. I think the only way at this point they push Michael Onwenu out to tackle is if they are in game and every single one of their tackles goes down. Like if they only have one tackle, let's say it's Trent Brown, right? Or let's say it's Calvin Anderson starting at left tackle because they're dealing with injuries, and there's no other tackle that is on your roster right now. And then I think they bump Onwenu out to right tackle for the remainder of that game. And I think that's the only way you see Onwenu over at tackle at this point. I think they believe that he's a guard and they want to keep the continuity around the rest of the offensive line as much as possible. And they rather just place any other body at right tackle and just kind of worry about one position rather than trying to maneuver several different positions. So again, from a talent standpoint, I like it. I agree with it, but it's just not something that I think the Patriots view. And they've come out on the record several times and said, nah, Onwenu, he's a guard. He's not a tackle for us. Who is the best free agent cornerback? That's actually an excellent question. Let's look it up, actually, because even I'm not sure who the current free agents at cornerback are. Let's see. I know one guy that is still on the market that everybody's been throwing around, especially in like our Discord chat with the Patreon members. A name that's been thrown around a lot is Marcus Peters. Now, Marcus Peters is still technically a free agent. I believe it was yesterday or a few days ago. Reports came out that Marcus Peters was visiting the Las Vegas Raiders. Supposedly they offered him a contract. Nothing is done at this current time. He's not signed with anyone. I'm sure he's still in negotiations, still viewing all of his options. But there is a team interested and an offer is on the table. So I think if the Patriots do want somebody like Marcus Peters, then they do have to swoop in right now, probably offer him a little bit more money. But if you do that, then how are you going to sign DeAndre Hopkins? How are you going to trade for a tackle? One of those moves is more important, right? I would say bringing on DeAndre Hopkins is more important than bringing on, Marcus Peters. I think that, trading for a tackle is more important than bringing on another cornerback. I think they'll be fine with what they have in-house if they don't sign another guy. But there obviously is a world in which if Jack Jones does leave, the Patriots have been practicing something all offseason from a schematic standpoint in things they're trying to do for the defense this upcoming season. Maybe they say, you know what? We like what we're doing. We don't want to mess with that. We need another body here if Jack Jones is going to be out. But again, it's only minicamp. It's only OTAs. It's not training camp. So I do think that they do just work around it and stick with the guys in-house. But let me see who else is over here at corner. Click on available. Okay. So the guys that are available right now, Marcus Peters, obviously, I think everybody's going to throw around the name Byron Jones, guys. If you don't know the whole situation with Byron Jones, he's not in the NFL essentially. I think the only reason he's still considered in the NFL is that he can still get paid. Like if he retires, I think it messes with the pay with him. It messes with the pay with Miami. He stepped away from football because he's dealt with way too many injuries that are taking a toll on his body. That's why he stepped away from Miami. It wasn't Miami cutting him. It wasn't him saying, I don't want to play for Miami. Byron Jones is a good corner, right? Like if he still wanted to play football, he'd be signed right now. He's retired without the official retired title. So he's not an option. William Jackson, Bradley Roby, who like I liked a few years ago. I think at this point, he's really not much of anything. Ronald Darby, same case with him. Casey Hayward is a guy that, maybe a couple of years ago, if you asked me, I would have loved this. I loved him with the Chargers. Didn't look good with Atlanta this past year. He's 33 years old. I think at this point, he's not going to get signed. He's just going to end up retiring. Anthony Brown, Troy Hill. I don't like his personality, but Eli Apple is a guy who could give you some CB3 reps if you really needed and do a quality job at it. Obviously, playing with the Bengals too, a lot of experience in the postseason, some of the top talent. Only 27 years old. Also, I'm past Kyle Fuller at this point. Bryce Callahan, 31 years old. I think he's kind of on the outside looking in. I know people have thrown around the idea of Logan Ryan. I think at this point, Logan Ryan is more of a safety than he is a cornerback. That's what he did with Tampa Bay, but he's 32 years old. He didn't really do much for Tampa Bay this past year. I think it's the same situation where he's looking to retire. There's a couple of names here that I look at and I say, you know what? They would probably make the most sense for the Patriots and probably the only sense for the Patriots. Because at this point, you're just getting into guys that are too old and are about to retire or guys that are just going to be scout team defensive backs for you. So the first one is Justin Coleman. He's 30 years old, coming back from Seattle. Now, if you remember, the Patriots actually traded him to Seattle many, many, many years ago. So he is familiar with the system. I thought that he actually was a very decent cornerback for the Patriots and was actually a very decent cornerback for Seattle too. He's a guy that could obviously come in and serve a role. He's 30, so he's a little bit up there in age, but you only need him for a year. You're not asking him to be a CB1 or a CB2, so I think that's an option for the Patriots. And then probably the one that makes the most sense is Terrence Mitchell. He's 31 years old. I think, again, he's someone you're not asking him to be CB1. You're asking him to be CB2 to CB3 at best, probably CB3 and take over that role of Jack Jones. But Terrence Mitchell was obviously with the Patriots this past year. I think he looked really good. He was rolling with the starting defense, but the Patriots end up releasing him because they liked what they had already defensively. They liked what they had with Jack Jones. They liked what they had with Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones as your starting outside perimeter cornerback. And they said, you know what? We're okay. So I don't think Terrence Mitchell was released because the Patriots didn't like him or because he wasn't performing well. I think he was released because they had too many bodies there that they wanted to keep. And maybe this year is the same situation, right? Because even if you look at last year, they had Jack Jones, they had Marcus Jones come in. There was just too many bodies that he couldn't make the roster. This year is the exact same thing. You take out Jack Jones, but you substitute Christian Gonzalez in, and there's the exact same numbers with the exact same situation, except Christian Gonzalez is going to be immediately plugged in as CB1 to CB2. So that's why ultimately I do roll with them not actually signing anybody and more so rolling with who they have in-house. But I think Terrence Mitchell would make a lot of sense. He was a guy that for the first couple of weeks in training camp was the first guy on the field, and then Mac Jones kind of came in and replaced him as the first guy on the field. So it was kind of a battle for a little bit between, hey, who's going to be the first guy on the field today, Terrence Mitchell or Mac Jones? But I think the Patriots do view that highly. I think he was an excellent veteran, a lot of respect, made some plays there in the preseason, and even made some plays in the regular season too. So not a guy you want as your starting cornerback, but a CB2 to likely CB3. I definitely wouldn't be against it. And there's a lot of young guys kind of still in the building. And there's some question marks now. The Patriots are going to figure things out. So if you do need to replace a body, the best way to do so is to get a guy who knows this system and is a veteran in the NFL. So I would like that for the Patriots. So let's see. Alex says, do you think the Patriots can shock the world with or without DeAndre Hopkins? I say yes, because we have the playmakers, and Bill O'Brien is a huge upgrade from Matt Patricia. So I do think that the Patriots will be better than I think a lot of people are going to give them credit for. There was one guy on Instagram who does like draft content who had the Patriots winning 5 games this past season. And I was like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. And then graded the Patriots a C plus for their draft this year. So there's definitely people out there doubting, and I definitely don't agree that the Patriots are going to be like a 5 or 6 win team. But we do have to understand is that they do have one of the hardest schedules. According to PFF, they have the hardest schedule. According to NFL Strength of the Schedule, they have the top 3 hardest schedule. So with that being said, it's going to be a lot harder for them to win games this year than it was last year. But I think their defense is still great. It's still elite. I think that with Bill Belichick being able to work more hands-on with the defense this year and not having to go between offense and defense as much because of Bill O'Brien coming in, the defense should only take a step forward this upcoming season. The question mark is going to all come down to the offense, right? That's the biggest question. The Patriots lost a lot of games last year because the offense literally could not put up any points. We literally won that second game against the Jets because of a buzzer beater punt return by Marcus Jones. It was 3-3 or something like that up until the end of the game. Like you're telling me we were on the same par. Our offense was on the same par as Zach Wilson's led Jets offense that game. That's a problem. So as long as this offense can take a step forward, then I definitely believe that we're going to shock the NFL. But, are we going to shock the world, and the Patriots are going to make the AFC Championship game? The Patriots are a dark horse Super Bowl contender. No, it's not going to be that. But I do think that people are going to underestimate us. I think that people are going to put us 4th in the AFC East. People are going to put us out of the playoffs. I think that the Patriots will make the playoffs. Do I ultimately think that they win a playoff game or make a playoff push? That's a different question, but I do at least think that they do make the playoffs. But I will have my record prediction video, way too early record prediction video, coming out pretty shortly, and kind of all my thoughts about these games. But, I do think, like I said earlier, DeAndre Hopkins will only help the Patriots, but I think the Patriots have to make one move or the other, whether it's bringing in a starting tackle or bringing in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins to help this passing game and help it develop quicker and help get some pressure, get off some of these other guys like Juju Smith-Schuster and Devontae Parker, and helping them get open with their one-on-one matchups and not constantly getting double teamed. And, really at the end of the day, like I said, if your tackle position is not going to be upgraded, you're not going to give Mac Jones more time. You need to get guys who are going to help this passing offense to make sure he gets the ball out lightning quick. Massive shout out here to Diehard Pats Fan with the $20 donation. I think that's the first donation from today's chat. Says, it doesn't look good for Jack Jones, but seeing Judon giving him some support has me praying that the lawyer can somehow get the charges dropped or at least reduced. So I think even if they get reduced, like if he's in prison, I think he's as good as gone. See, I had some people say, well, what if the NFL suspends him? I don't know if the NFL would suspend him over this. It's super hard. It's super hard to know with NFL and suspensions because they suspend people for the stupidest things and then don't suspend people for other things. It really makes absolutely no sense. I told my Patreon members that I don't think the NFL would suspend him, but the Patriots could. We would ultimately just have to see. But like I said, even if the charges are reduced to even a year in prison, I just don't think that the Patriots keep him around. But I do know that his lawyer is like a big lawyer who had one of the biggest cases. There's like a whole thing about it on Netflix. So again, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be her. But it doesn't look good for Jack Jones. But, obviously Judon and all giving him praise and helping, keep Pats Nation in check and giving him support is the biggest thing right now. Let's see. Whoops. MA Football Guy says, are there any inside linebackers or just linebackers maybe in general that we should consider? Right now, no. I think the Patriots are pretty confident with linebacker, as I think they should be. The Patriots also don't view linebacker, I think, as big as a lot of other teams do, right? Just because they have a lot of safeties playing hybrid linebacker close to the line of scrimmage, playing in the box, which really helps kind of that depletion of your linebacker core. I also think that they're really more focused at this point, this current generation of their defense. They're more focused on their first point of attack with their defensive line, whether it's pass rush or just stopping the run, and then relying on a very good secondary as where, hey, if one of those is depleted, then you either want a linebacker core that's going to help you in coverage, or if your, let's say, defensive line is depleted and can't get pressure on the quarterback, you want guys who can blitz a lot, help get that pressure on the quarterback, or having issues stop the run. You want linebackers who are going to be very good at stopping the run, which has really been the Patriots' issue over the last few years, is stopping the run, which is why you see these linebackers, these thumping linebackers the Patriots have, who are mostly good at stopping the run. So, like I said, I think, linebacker for the Patriots is not nearly viewed as highly as it was, way back when they drafted Jamie Collins high, Chandler Jones high, Dante Hightower high. So I think those days are pretty much over. This was the best linebacker class in the draft that we've seen in years, and the Patriots didn't even take a single one of those guys. So I think they're very confident with what they have. Obviously, Marte Mapu standing out a lot too. He's probably going to be a rover. We don't know if he's going to serve one exact role. I would say right now he's probably a rover because they're just constantly putting him in several different positions. He's looked really good at safety. He's looked really good at inside linebacker. So he's someone where if the Patriots on a week-to-week basis or just dealing with injuries need some help at linebacker, Marte Mapu can come in and serve that role also. So I don't think that they bring on any more linebackers unless it ends up dealing with injury. But, obviously they let go of Raekwon McMillan, but you have Marte Mapu coming onto the scene now to where it's not like you're necessarily losing anybody. So, you have Juwan Bentley, you have Mac Wilson, you have Chris Board. I bet Jabril Peppers will play in that position sometimes, Marte Mapu. So I think we're better there than a lot of people realize, although you don't have a lot of necessarily, starting positional linebackers, that they don't view it as that. What number do I think Christian Gonzalez will be? And I love your head. Thank you. I love that you love my head. It's the first time I heard that one, but confidence always helps. What number do I think Christian Gonzalez is going to be? So originally we thought Jack Jones was going to take on 0. Then he said he wasn't. Now he might not even be on the team. I think Jack Jones I think Christian Gonzalez takes on 0. I feel very confident in that. We're not going to see him in that 0 till like the start of the season, to the final week of preseason, but pin it in here. Christian Gonzalez wears 0. I think it's going to look tough too. Don the Man says, PG, what are the top potential tackles that can join us? Right now, I honestly don't know. There's nobody. There's nobody on the free agency market. Like, it has to be a trade. Like, let's just say that first. Like, there is nobody on the free agency market you're going to sign that would make a difference, or they would be here. Also, starting caliber tackles, one, they're never on the free agency market. They're never on the free agency market at this point in the offseason, and they're very rarely ever available for trade. Now, I do know one or two guys from the Bengals could be potentially on the trade block. They signed Orlando Brown, and they already had a great offensive line at that point. So maybe they hit them up and say, here's a second round pick. Give us just a starting tackle. But there's not a whole lot of guys I know at this time, but that is a video that I will say I am doing research on to try to think of and do some research on some guys that they could trade for. But it would have to be via trade. It would have to be. So this is a good one. I know I kind of figure we're gonna have a lot of DeAndre Hopkins talk in today's video. Obviously, have a lot of videos about DeAndre Hopkins if you guys want to go check those out. But Global, how about trade Parker and Bourne, sign Hopkins, trade for a tackle? Our wide receiver core will be fine without Bourne and Parker. We could trade for a tackle from the cap space we freed up from Bourne and Parker. So I don't think so, just because, like, hey, if you trade Parker, yeah, that frees up like $6 million. You trade Bourne and you're really not freeing up a whole lot of money at all. I also don't think that people will still be interested in trading for Bourne, but you're not going to get as high of a pick as you would have this time last year, because he's only going to be signed for a 1-year deal. It's kind of that same situation with Parker. I do think that they'll get a higher pick for Parker, though, than they would Bourne. But what you have to understand, too, is that this wide receiver core is already depleted. Like, we're literally in OTAs and minicamp, and you have special teamer Rally Webb getting snaps at wide receiver. You have Malik Cunningham getting significant snaps at wide receiver because we're so banged up. Juju Smith-Schuster still dealing with injuries he had from the AFC Championship game. Tyquan Thornton for the second straight season dealing with some type of injury also that's kept him out over the last couple of weeks. Keishawn Butte not looking good in practice. Supposedly he's dealing with an injury now too. Like, we can go on and on talking about these guys, but the wide receiver core for us is already looking pretty depleted. And you have to pretty much expect that one or two of these guys is going to go down for at least a certain period of time. So you do want to keep that depth at the wide receiver position. Like, honestly, for me, I wouldn't be surprised. DeAndre Hopkins signs here. I don't think the Patriots should trade any wide receiver. Like, I think you're looking at maybe a Justice Tavai or somebody else on the outside looking in that you should release that isn't going to make this roster or isn't going to get actual snap time, because you need to keep the depth there at wide receiver. But I think even if DeAndre Hopkins comes here, there's still a role for Parker. There's still a role for Bourne. I think if anything, the guy on the outside looking in would be Parker. But again, DeAndre Hopkins comes in, he gets injured or something, you need an X outside wide receiver. And Parker's looked really good for the Patriots last year. He looks really good so far this offseason. He just has issues staying healthy. You need to find a way to get Kendrick Bourne involved. And obviously you can't compare Kendrick Bourne and DeAndre Hopkins to their types of roles. So I think if you're getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins for Kendrick Bourne, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense also. So just looking at the issues we have, like out wide receiver and these issues already, I do think that you do need to sign D-Hop, which that doesn't mean you do need to get rid of some wide receivers, especially you don't want to get rid of two, or, you know, you're going to be like mid-season dealing with an issue that you don't want to be dealing with. What jersey would I rock this year? Man, I'm going to be honest with you. I would grab a Christian Gonzalez jersey right away. Like, I think he's going to be great. I think, you know, if he rocks 0, that's just going to look tough. But I would also, it's a 1-year deal, so I hate to say go ahead and get a guy on a 1-year deal, but he could be here longer. But a Mike Gesicki jersey would also go tough. We're in 88. I think he's going to be a really good piece for the Patriots this year. Very productive and dominant piece in this offense. Stevenson's always a good piece. I know that he's 2 years into the contract already, but you got to think that they're going to be interested in keeping him around longer term. And then I already have a Mac Jones jersey. I got a Judon jersey. Those are obviously the two big name guys that if you want to get a jersey, I would say go with those two guys first. And then after that, man, I think it's totally up to you. But like those are the guys for me. Like if I had to pick a jersey next, it would be Gonzalez or Ramondre. Let's see. Try to find a good one. Probably answer 1 or 2 more questions here. This is a really good question. Off script says, how has Isaiah Bolden looked? Very interesting comment, because nobody ever asks about these, you know, projected special teams guys. I think the fact that anybody had the Amir Speed pick better than the Isaiah Bolden pick will forever confuse me. I think Amir Speed is going to make the practice squad at best, because he's essentially a gunner, right? Like that's what you're expecting him to do. He can't cover. He has a good size, good 40 time, but he can't cover. He just covers kicks and punts. It's essentially all he does. And the Patriots are pretty stacked at that position. Not to mention that Jordan Healig, the Patriots UDFA, is working very, very strongly and prominently with the Patriots starting special teams unit, is always next to Joe Judge and the Patriots special teams coach. And he's always with Matthew Slater too. So, I mean, we're talking about Johnny Lumpkin making the final roster or Malik Cunningham. It very well could be Jordan Healig as a special teamer. Which would easily push not Isaiah Bolden, but Amir Speed out. I always liked Isaiah Bolden more as a pick for the Patriots, just because I think that he brings something different to the team that could get him to make the 53 over Amir Speed. Like, he has special teams ability, but it's not on the covering unit, right? It's as a return man on the kick return unit. The Patriots have a punt returner. They don't have a kick returner. Like, that is a competition this offseason. And Isaiah Bolden has returned a few for touchdowns during his college tenure, not to mention the fact that he has very similar size, very similar speed and 40 time to Amir Speed, but is a lot better in terms of coverage and can play cornerback and safety. So we haven't heard anything necessarily bad. I know some wide receivers have caught passes on top of him, but we haven't heard anything bad yet. But he is getting a decent amount of snaps within the secondary, and at least more than somebody like Amir Speed has. So Adrian, I think, asks an excellent question for us to end off today's live stream. I know we were dealing with some technical difficulties here, but says, do you think people underrate the effect that the Titans are going to have on the passing game since everyone is so stuck on wide receivers? Adrian, man, I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think you kind of have people split, right? There's nobody in the middle. I think the people are split to that. You either have people overvaluing the two tight end sets, or you have people who are overvaluing the wide receivers and not knowing anything about what these tight ends are bringing. Like, I believe it was the first day of minicamp, the Patriots tight ends totaled in team drills alone, totaled for like 12 total catches. That would divide Hunter Henry and Mike Gesicki to like 6 catches total alone into team drills, which is absolutely absurd. Now, look, are the tight ends going to get this many looks in the regular season? Or is it just the fact that, again, Rowley Webb and Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte were the guys on the field because, you know, Juju and Thornton and even Parker at one point were all dealing with some injuries and not in practice? That could definitely be part of it. But I do think that under Bill O'Brien, he loves his tight ends. He loves the two tight end sets. You look back when he was actually a part of this offense as a quarterbacks coach, wide receiver coach, and then the offensive coordinator before leaving after 2011 to be the head coach over at Penn State, is that he really got the Aaron Hernandez and Gronk combination married together and really working. And, you know, you brought on Jonnu Smith, you brought on Hunter Henry to try to marry those two guys and really re-implement what the Patriots had back in 2011 or those few years with Gronk and Hernandez, and they weren't able to do it. Let's see if Bill O'Brien can come in and do what Josh McDaniels and Matt Patricia were not able to do. And I do believe that we could see a much more rejuvenated offense this season with the two tight end sets and just this offense in general than we have in the last several years. Because I think obviously Matt Patricia, that experiment was what it was. I'm not even going to get into that. But I think over the last few years at the end of the Josh McDaniels experiment, it just didn't go too well. Like, the Patriots still had a very good offense, but it was very predictable. It was very dry. You had some players vocally come out and just, you know, speak out against it and speak out against him. So I think that this could be a very new offense. It could be very rejuvenated and show us something that we haven't seen. Like, marry an old Patriots offense, get this team back on track to what they've always been over the last few decades, but also marry a new college concept of the Alabama offense that Mac Jones worked in. Now you're marrying concepts that work in this offense, but also work with your young quarterback. And you marry those two concepts, and I think this offense absolutely can take off. But I do think that people are also overvaluing what Bill O'Brien is going to bring. I think that you're expecting him to fix the fact that your wide receivers are injured, and it's a good wide receiver core, but it's not great. And the fact that your offensive line has a lot of questions, you have terrible tackles, and how are you going to get your quarterback to stay upright while still utilizing all of your weapons? You know, he can only do so much. He's a coach. He's not a player. You know, you're essentially asking him to make lemonade with water. That's it. Like, pure lemonade, like Alex's lemonade with just water. It's not possible, right? So I think you do have to keep your expectations tamed with the situation that we have going on around us. But I think that if we can get these pieces into place, this offense is going to look outstanding. And we're already seeing those 2 tight end stats on the 12 personnel with Mike Gesicki and Hunter Henry. I think you're going to see Hunter Henry lined up more as an inline tight end, but you're going to see Mike Gesicki lined up, at inline tight end at times, but you're going to see him in the slot. You're going to see him out wide as an X perimeter wide receiver at times too. Like, he's going to be played everywhere, which is how you're going to see those 2 tight end sets get their advantages and their mismatches and just be so productive this upcoming season. Like, I think that the tight ends alone are going to combine for more catches than the wide receivers. So maybe a little bit of a hot take, but I firmly do believe in it. So I appreciate all you guys for coming in. I know this was a little bit of a rough one, just with some laggy issues, with some of the storms rolling in, with some of the Wi-Fi and the issues going on with the stream today. I know we had some Patreon members try to come in, and I don't know if it was my Wi-Fi or theirs, things didn't exactly work. But at the end of the day, we had a very good stream today. We're able to answer some questions. And guys, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna try to have one more good stream before, unfortunately, I have to go into surgery and be out for like 14 days. But during that time period, I will have pre-recorded content that will drop for you guys. But unfortunately, if DeAndre Hopkins signs, after I get my surgery within that 14-day period of time, you guys just won't get a video about it until I can actually speak again. So without further ado, though, I do appreciate all you guys for watching. Make sure you guys do leave a big like on this video on your way out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you guys do so. I have a lot of good content dropping for you guys. But without further ado, I appreciate you guys for watching. Never forget, go Pats.